This is the Yankees POSTCAST, your instant game reaction for the New York Yankees. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, the American League Division Series did not start the way the Yankees wanted. Up in Toronto, they lose game number one, final score 10-1. Luis Gil didn't have it, lasted just 2 2/3, only allowed 2 runs. Unfortunately, the bullpen didn't have it either. They coughed up 8 more, 8 big ones. Now, Alejandro Kirk, a Yankee killer, hit 2 home runs. Vlad Guerrero, a Yankee killer, also hit a home run, all in support of Kevin Gausman, who went 5 2/3 to earn the win. Again, 10-1 the final score. The Blue Jays lead the series 1-0. Hello, everybody. I'm Jay Berman. If you're in New York, or you might recognize my work, I've spent more than 2 decades in the biz, everything from TV to web to radio. Glad to have you aboard. Please follow me on X as well, at Jay Berman, JayBerman. Welcome to the Locked On Yankees postcast, both on the Locked On Yankees YouTube channel and the Locked On Yankees podcast feed. The postcast, which we've been doing every single game this year. Well, we're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Let's jump right in.
This is what you'll be talking about.
All right, so the Jays have the early 1-0 series lead after a 10-1 blowout today. Now, to be fair, most of the game was close. Into the 7th inning, it was a 2-1 game. Yanks very much alive, and we'll get to it. But 4 in the 7th and 4 in the 8th for the Blue Jays. To be fair, the first 4 ended it. The second 4, well, that was with Paul Blackburn in, and at that point, nobody cared. Anyways, point being, Yanks in a 1-0 hole after allowing 14 Blue Jay hits. Now, as we said, Luis Gil, 2 2/3, 4 hits, 2 earned, allowed 2 home runs. The first home run to Vladdy, the first home run to Alejandro Kirk. Tim Hill did his job. Camilo Doval did his job. Unfortunately, that's when we get to Luke Weaver. Weaver, once again, could not register an out. In fact, Weaver faced 6 batters this postseason, 3 in each outing. He has not retired a single batter. 6 batters faced, 4 hits allowed, 2 walks, no outs. Worthy of mention because Weaver becomes the first Yankee ever to have a 2-game span in the postseason with 6+ batters faced and no outs recorded. Here's the point. We knew Weaver was struggling. Why did we see him tonight? Again, in a close game. It was a one-run game with Gausman seemingly tiring in the 6th inning, which he did. That's why they yanked him. But again, the middle part of the bullpen was good. As we said, Tim Hill did his job, as did Camilo Doval. But Weaver and Cruz, yikes, not good. Now, we figured Cruz was probably destined for coming back down to earth just a bit because he's been so good. Now, as for Luke Weaver, he's getting close to unpitchable, which is surprising because most of the regular season, we loved Luke Weaver. Obviously, the roller coaster continues. Again, Weaver threw 10 pitches, 2 hits, 3 runs, a walk, and did not record an out for the 2nd time this postseason. So the Yanks have only lost twice. The first game to the Red Sox, the first game to the Blue Jays. Each time Luke Weaver has made a mess of things. So we need to get that right. As for Paul Blackburn, well, he coughed up 4 runs, but at that point, the game was over. We're going to cut to this real quick.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
Yeah, and there's no doubt about it. It's Aaron Judge's strikeout of ball 4 with the bases loaded in a fateful 6th inning. Now, the Yankees did score. It was the Cody Bellinger bases loaded walk. However, the at-bat before, the Judge at-bat swinging at ball 4 changes everything. Absolutely everything. Bases loaded, nobody out. In a 2-1 game, you have Bellinger coming up. Completely changes everything. So again, that is your quick turning point of the game. The Aaron Judge strikeout with the bases loaded and nobody out in the fateful 6th inning. One that turned out to be really the difference. Yanks didn't score in the 7th. Blue Jays scored 4 in the bottom of the 7th, and then again 4 in the bottom of the 8th to close things out. Now, as for Judge, entered with a batting average of just 212 in the postseason. Now, he had 2 hits today, 2 clean hits, but he was the only Yankee. Yanks managed just 6 hits. Hits for Jazz, Ryan McMahon, Anthony Volpe, and Austin Wells. That was it. And 2 extra base hits, just 2 doubles. A double from Judge and the double from Volpe, who seemed to one-hand it off the wall in left field. As for the Blue Jays, Lucas had 2 hits, including a big one. Vlad had 3 hits. Alejandro Kirk had 2 hits. Dalton Varsho had 2 hits. Andres Jimenez had 2 hits, including the big one in the 7th inning against the drawn-in infield. But again, count them up with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Blue Jays had multiple hits on the afternoon. Blue Jays scored all those runs without George Springer providing a spark. He was 0 for 4, did draw a walk, but again, sometimes George Springer can get out in front of it and put his team on his back and usually find himself in the middle of offensive rallies. Well, not today, but they didn't need it today. Of course, Springer also a Yankee killer. There seems to be quite a few of those Yankee killers in that Blue Jay lineup. Again, Springer usually plays him well. Kirk, Vladdy, amazing stuff. Even Barger has had a great season. Now, the Yanks have now lost 7 of 8, including the regular season. So, to be fair, now things can change, but to be fair, it's been a house of horrors. In the regular season, the Yanks, in those 7 games in Toronto, which they lost 6 of them, committed 11 errors. Now, the defense wasn't a problem tonight. The pitching was, and obviously the lack of getting a big hit in the clutch. So again, Yanks have now lost 7 of 8 in Toronto this season. Toronto, by the way, last time they won a postseason game, 2016. It's been nearly a decade, not a series, a game. So again, they finally win a postseason game for the first time since 2016. The roof was open, which, to be fair, annoyed me because of the sun and the shadows to start the game. Now, it didn't last very long, so I got to be fair with that. But, and most of the time the roof is closed in Toronto, but it's October, and the fact that it was 77 degrees at first pitch, well, that's why the roof was open. They played, this is an amazing stat, they've played 32 postseason games, including tonight at Rogers Center in Toronto. They've had the roof open twice, tonight, and then if you recall the Edwin Encarnacion home run game from over a decade ago, that game was also with the roof open. So the Blue Jays are now 2-0 with the roof open in the postseason. What's also interesting, as we touch on Luis Gil one more time, is that Gil made 4 starts against Toronto this season. Did not allow a home run. Well, allowed a home run in the first inning, allowed a home run in the second inning, and that was really the end for Luis Gil. Still have to do player of the game and obviously get you set up. We've got the pitching matchups at least for the next 2 games. And, of course, we'll get you set for all of that. All right, this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the daily fantasy app where making the right call and can actually pay off. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right means cashing in. With football back, Prize Picks is the simplest and fastest way to get in on the action. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can turn your takes into real prizes all in less than 60 seconds. I've been playing Prize Picks lately, and it's such a fun way to stay locked in for the season. It's quick, easy, and honestly, my favorite way to follow along with football. I love checking projections like Josh Allen for more or less than 270 yards passing, or Saquon Barkley for more or less than one rushing touchdown. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. All right, the NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. So, you ready to play? Well, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. It's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. All right, and away we go.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
There's no doubt it's Alejandro Kirk who came into the game with some serious damage done against the Yankees, specifically this season. Now, he had 15 home runs in the regular season, which is pretty good for a catcher. It seemed like all of them were against the Yankees. Besides that, it's his third straight game with a home run. Now, of course, you say, well, the last two games were regular season games, except Toronto not only won both those games, but they needed both those games because the division was coming down to the last day. So essentially playoff games right there for Alejandro Kirk. 3 straight games with a home run and 5 in the last 3 games. He, of course, had a grand slam and another home run on the final day of the regular season to help Toronto win the division. So again, he's been red hot. 3rd straight game with a home run, 5 in the last 3 games. Yankees cannot seem to get him out, as Kirk goes 2 for 4 with a pair of home runs. Meanwhile, Vladdy hit a home run. That was the first home run allowed by Luis Gil. That came in the very first inning. Vladdy hadn't hit a home run in a month. 90 plate appearances. That was the last time we saw a home run from Vladdy, and he parks one in the first inning off Luis Gil. Now, to be fair, Yanks had their opportunities, especially in that 6th inning. They just could not come through, specifically Aaron Judge, who strikes out on ball 4, which was just so frustrating. As for the Toronto bullpen, now, to be fair, the last couple of innings, the game was out of reach, but Varland, Dominguez, and Little were all really good. And again, Gausman went 5 2/3, allowed 1 earned run. As great a performance you can expect against a tough Yankee lineup for Gausman. And again, this is a game Toronto had to have. They're going with a rookie tomorrow and then Shane Bieber in game 3. We'll get to the pitching matchups. But again, Varland, Dominguez, Little, and then Hoffman all throwing scoreless performances today. Tomorrow, game 2, of course, will be a 4:08 Eastern time first pitch, as was today. Max Fried, Trey Yesevich goes for Toronto. Now, he's a rookie that was called up less than a month ago. So this could be very interesting. Like I said, Toronto needed to get today, and they did handily. But things change in favor of the Yankees because Max Fried goes tomorrow. And again, Yesevich goes for Toronto. Game 3 will be Tuesday, back in the Bronx. So note the start times because it's strange. 8:08 on Tuesday for game 3. Game 4, which of course might not take place. That would be Wednesday at 7 Eastern. So 8 on Tuesday, 7 on Wednesday, and hopefully both those games get played. As for game 3 on Tuesday, Rodon and Shane Bieber. Bieber, of course, was acquired from the Guardians at the deadline. So interesting times. Not sure what you're going to get from Shane Bieber, who, of course, used to be great, did have some solid starts once he returned to the Blue Jays rotation. However, again, you're not sure what you're going to get. If he was that great, probably would have been game one starter. Fried, Yasevich on Sunday for game 2. Rodon, Bieber, Tuesday, game 3. Game 4, advantage Yanks again. Cam Schlittler is expected to pitch on Wednesday. The Blue Jays don't have a starter as of yet. According to the broadcast, Joe Davis and John Smoltz, they had discussed the possibility of a bullpen game in game 4. So, again, advantage Yankees in that situation. All right, thanks for making Locked On Yankees your first listen every day. For your second listen, find Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night until the World Series champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Also want to mention our partners in crime over at Locked On Yankees, Stacey Goudsoulias and Brian McKeon. They're the best. Again, all the stuff at Locked On Yankees is there, so follow, subscribe, and enjoy. Yanks lose 10-1. Unfortunately, they're in an 0-1 hole in this division series. We'll have to wait and see till tomorrow to see exactly which direction this series goes. Of course, Max Fried and Trey Yasevich are the starters. Fried, the majors win leader with 19 this past season against a rookie. So you never know what you're going to get. I expect the Yankees to score more than one run. My name is Jay Berman. This has been the Yankees Postcast. Until next time, we will see you. Good night.